all my people, and if you're watching live, checking us out on YouTube, or listening on your favorite podcast provider, you are most definitely my people. Welcome to another episode of Botched, Bots, and Chair Shots. I'm your host, a chef by trade and market by choice. I am the Will Gray, and joining me tonight is the adorable one. It's everybody's favorite podcaster, Alex Todd. Alex, welcome back, brother. It's been far too long. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's been a minute since I've been able to get on a podcast and talk wrestling, so I'm pretty excited about tonight's topic.
I'm glad we could to get you to pop back out of your shell a little bit and get you back into the swing of things. Directly above Alex on the screen to the top right is none other than everybody's favorite Ginger Ninja. He is my co-host on Nerdy News at 420, is one of the co-hosts on the Wrestle Talk Wolfpack and Boyfriend Time. It's our boy Jax Bo. Jax, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic tonight. How are y'all doing?
Good.
Can't complain.
So far, so good. It's absolutely okay. What's up, B-Dave? Glad you're here. AJ, Jax, he says he's got some retro movie trailers and a playlist for Nerdy News on Tuesday. Tuesday's going to be a lot of fun there. And perched upon her iron throne in the boss bitch's corner, she is the Beyonce to my Hova, the Bonnie to my Clyde. She is the brains behind the operation. It's the boss bitch, Al. Al, how are you?
I'm good. I'm drinking today. But
You're drinking? Show everybody what you got. Sunny
Cheers.
D. Alex has got a White Claw. You've got a Sunny D. I've got a Dr. Pepper.
These are the shit.
They're so good.
So good.
If everybody else is imbibing, I'm going to get off camera real quick. This isn't nerdy news, ladies and gentlemen. Not at all. But, guys, I start the episode every week the exact same way. It's my favorite question because I get to ask you guys, what has you pissed off for greatness? Like, this week in pro wrestling, what has you the most worked up? Good, bad, indifferent, some gear, a match, a finish, a whole fucking card? Like, what has you pissed off for greatness? Alex, you're the guest. You can either go first or default to Jax so you can get the lay of the land. But what has you guys pissed off for greatness?
I think I already got mine, Will.
I love it when that's the answer.
So whether this is to be believed to be true, false, nobody really knows at the moment. But there are a lot of rumblings around that my favorite superstar, who you can see right up here with a nice little autograph, the Rated R superstar, may possibly be finishing up with WWE, and there are a lot of rumors that he might actually be heading to AEW. I am all for him finishing up his career with Christian and the Hardys, possibly even if the Dudleys, if somehow, by the grace of whoever's running this world, Devon can get cleared. But for me, I grew up with the Rated R superstar being my favorite wrestler of all time, and it doesn't seem right if he were to go that his career does not end in WWE. There's probably a lot of people that are going to be happy about it. I understand that. It's just weird for me. I don't like it.
We're going to get to the edge to other places in news and rumors. But my take on the whole thing is, if he's done with WWE, cool. If he's not done with pro wrestling, cool. I don't feel like there's anything bad that could come from Adam Copeland wrestling outside of Stamford, Connecticut, though.
Oh, no, you're absolutely correct. I'm just being a little dramatic.
As I get it though. Like, I remember when Foley, we'll get into as we've talked about TNA in the first round, and we'll talk about some today. Probably not so much in the back half, but Mick Foley showing up in TNA, I was like, this isn't Mick Foley. Like, this isn't Mankind or Cactus Jack. This is just some faux. What's up, Matt? Thank you. Yeah, I went and we had tacos. We had Taco Bell for lunch today, Matt. Thank you. It was delicious. AJ says, does Edge go by Sexton Hardcastle or Adam Copeland?
Sexton Hardcastle sounds like a porn star.
Yep. There's also Damon Stryker and Adam Impact as well.
Adam Impact would be great. We were talking about this during the GCW show, and have you ever noticed how strippers, wrestlers, and porn stars all could have the same names and the same like in the same likeness?
Yep.
Like, they all kind of seem like they would fit under the same umbrella. And I noticed that today during the GCW show. There were a couple of those wrestlers, both male and female and otherwise, that I was like, those could just be stripper names.
Dude, Stone Cold Steve Austin literally sounds like a Chippendale name.
Al, Jax, you guys are up. Alex understood the assignment. What has you guys pissed off for greatness?
Jax, do you
Me
want to
and-
go?
Yeah, but we might have the same one though.
I doubt it.
Because mine's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Ooh.
No,
I
mean, mine's not
Oh. about
that. So go ahead.
I enjoyed it for its kookiness, but it was dumb.
I
Like,
think
it
I would have
made
been
no
okay
sense.
with it. Sorry.
No, you're good. No, I don't even have a lot to say on it. It just made no sense.
I think I would have enjoyed it if it was a little shorter. Like if you're gonna go for like a movie theme, like those shouldn't be meant to be long segments. WWE's done some stuff like that in the past, but they've made them shorter segments. It's not something that takes that much time out of the show. It went on a little too long for me to like it.
My biggest problem was because we were there. It was live in Nashville. Because they did the stuff like backstage in the arena and it wasn't pre-recorded, we did not have any sound for that first part of the match before it got to the ring. Like they had it up like on the Jumbotron and like on like that back screen, but we couldn't hear anything. We had no fucking clue what was going on.
I sent it. It may not have been in the group chat with you, Alex, but I thought I did maybe. But I sent a picture from the arena and I kept just kind of like a pan going back and forth. And it was just like chatter. You could just hear people talking, but it wasn't like cheering or rooting for the fight at all. It was just like we were hanging out in a room with 10,000 strangers, not sure what the fuck was happening. And then they fought into the arena and everybody lost their shit. But for the first 15 minutes of the match, we had no idea what was even happening.
Why wouldn't you have the audio playing for that?
Well, because they were like underneath the bleachers and stuff, like underneath us. So if they had the audio playing, it would have picked up
all of you.
Right. So honestly, they should have pre-recorded the beginning of the fucking match. I don't understand why they didn't do that. It's so dumb.
Yeah, they could have easily done it in the arena earlier on before anybody even got there.
Well, doors opened almost 45 minutes late.
Yeah, they did.
Really?
Yeah, doors are supposed to open at 5. We didn't start going into the arena until like 5:40.
They did, B-Dave, but that's what we're saying is all we got was the video, and it was like shaky, horror movie with the found footage, Blair Witch Project.
Blair Witch.
It was like shaky Blair Witch Project footage under the bleachers and stuff. It wasn't watching it on TV. The TV production was totally different than what we got live in the arena. Watching it on TV, I was like, this is still dumb, but I could see why people might think it was entertaining. Watching it live was ridiculous. There was no way to make it make sense live.
Yeah. There was also a bit too much fake blood for my taste, too.
Well, buckets of it probably wasn't the move, you know? Like, they literally had buckets of fake blood just dumping it on people.
Like, Karen Jarrett was absolutely covered. And that's about right when I turned on the TV to tune into AEW. I just gotten home. I literally turned the TV on, and I see when they were coming right into the arena, and she is just literally soaked in blood. And I was like, this is fucking dumb.
Al?
My words exactly.
Yeah, no, my big thing is, I say it a lot on the show, is don't make me ask why. If I have to ask why something happened, then it's probably not a good thing.
No, it's not resonating.
Yeah, and that was one of those why situations. And the last thing AEW needed was another fucking useless title belt running around their locker room. Like, that seems like way overkill now. Even if the deathmatch title isn't something that's defended, the last thing they needed now is just another title. And don't get me started on how little that devalues the Owen Hart belt now that just fucking everybody gets a title belt.
Yep.
win a
It's like
belt, win a
Oprah.
match, get a title. You get a title, and you get a title, and you get a title.
No, it's okay. At Forbidden Door next year, we can have Jeff Jarrett defending that title against Braun Strowman's greatest Royal Rumble title.
Yeah,
He's still champion, never lost it.
he never lost it.
That's so funny. My pissed off for greatness is another thing about us being at live AEW. So like, I understand putting mics under the ring so that you can hear the hits on TV.
Yeah, the bumps need to be heard, especially to amplify the sound for a production value.
However, we have been to several WWE events and several AEW events.
I know where this is going.
AEW turns that volume up so loud in the arena, like it's just terrible. Like at a WWE show,
What's up, Tom?
I feel like I don't hear it. You know what I mean? But at AEW, it's like they mix it into the sound. It's super loud and echoey, and it's almost distracting because you're like, that bump was not that hard. Like I saw it. Like,
And
this
it
shouldn't
even
be
comes
that
off.
loud.
It even comes off as a hell of a lot louder on TV too. I've noticed it's not enough to where it's like distracting from the TV product, but there's a very clear difference between the volume they have it on TV versus watching WWE.
Yeah. They also really choose the wrong arena in Nashville to do it in because unfortunately,
Ooh.
what?
That's my pissed off for greatness. Can I go?
Oh yeah.
My pissed off for greatness is, why the fuck did you book Bridgestone Arena if you were gonna block 50% of it out? Go to Municipal and sell those 8,000 seats and fill the whole arena. Instead, they booked a 20,000 seat arena, blocked 50% of it off, and then maybe sold, maybe put 8,500 asses in that building. They should have went to the smaller venue. Municipal is historic, tons of wrestling history. They've sold it out before, and they just wanted to go to Bridgestone because that's where WWE goes, and they weren't ready for it. And that's what sucks.
Since we're talking about TNA tonight, TNA Impact, they could actually learn a thing or two for them because no matter the situation TNA has always been in, whether they ran in small arenas, big arenas, whether they were doing good or not, they have always been really good about booking buildings that make it look like the crowd is packed. Like whether it's in a smaller building, whether even the shows they run now, like between their lighting and the buildings that they choose to do their shows in, it doesn't even look like while watching Impact that the arena's empty.
Al, where do they record in Nashville when they do the TV taping? Studio 25? Is that what it's called? Because the NWA records at the same place.
Star something. I don't know.
Starlight Studios or something like that.
Here, I'm pulling it up and I'll share my screen. Like the empty arena.
And honestly, where it really hurts them even more than Dynamite, Rampage, or Collision is when they do Ring of Honor tapings. I have the Honor Club subscription, and if you look and watch Ring of Honor, you can clearly tell that seats are empty or seats are tarped off.
Yeah, you can see. I'm pointing at my screen like you guys can see. But that, and then it's a whole bowl, because this is a hockey arena. Yep. So we're looking at turns 2 and 3 if we're thinking of it like a NASCAR track. And turns 2 and 3 and 50% of that back straightaway are completely blocked out and like people aren't setting. And then the very top bowl is completely empty all the way around.
Top 2 bowls.
Yeah.
This was only the 100s.
Yeah.
So the 200s are blocked out and the 300s are blocked out.
You can also see over on the right side of the guy in the orange hat, there's like a solid chunk that's empty right there.
Yeah. And this stayed empty until about 8:15 when they started moving people over here.
Yeah, they started putting seat fillers, and that's the Lexus Lounge. That's like the ringside like club seats during the Preds games.
They took these people and moved them over here. Yeah,
to fill the rest of the seats. But I'm not saying they didn't have a draw. Putting nearly 10,000 people in an arena isn't an easy feat. I'm not taking away from that.
Right.
But they should have done it in an arena that would have filled it up so it looked better. Because the power of photography and cinema is a son of a bitch, guys. Like when you look at it, you don't see it on TV. They do a good job of making it look full, but they didn't fill that building up. And it wasn't like we said, not even 50% full. They shouldn't have. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you can't get away with that like you could in the Attitude Era or the Ruthless Aggression Era anymore, because social media is so tied into pro wrestling these days that by the time that show is even halfway over, it's already going to be all over the internet.
I didn't even say anything about it that night. I sent it sent it to a couple friends. I was like, I'm curious to see if they say they sold it out. You know what I mean? I'm curious to see if they'll claim it sold out. So that's it. Yeah. So a lot of people, four of the four technically had AEW.
Say mine was half and half.
Yeah. All right, Al, that sends it up to you then. Everybody's pissed off and warmed up. Let's talk about some news and rumors before we dive into some Impact World title.
This has been talked about to death, so we can just slightly touch on it.
Doing it so we don't get fined.
I'm curious how the fuck Cash Wheeler's going to be able to leave the country with pending felony charges on him, because the UK is pretty strict about not letting you in when you have charges.
I'm going to let either one of you tee off before I go. Thoughts on Cash Wheeler?
I think the same thing. Like, I think I texted Will when he sent me the article, and I was like, well, there goes all in for Cash. Like, I don't know if he had to surrender his passport, or I don't know the terms of his release fully.
He did might have to surrender his passport in the arraignment video, because I found the arraignment video and posted it on my TikTok. He didn't have to surrender his passport, and they didn't tell him directly you can't leave the country. But he does have, fourth degree pending felonies or whatever the legal mumbo jumbo is for it. Alex, that was definitely in one of our groups, because we were talking about it the morning it happened, pretty much immediately.
Yeah, because I was at work. I literally saw it, I think I scrolled past it on Facebook, and it was like one of the first pages to post it. And I immediately, the first thing was, because whenever I see stuff like that, I usually go to you and I go to Lee so you guys can get it out there for your respective shows. And I was searching on Google, and things just started popping up left and right. And I was like, oh my God, this is actually real. And it was hard to believe at first, because FTR seemed to be a couple of guys that kind of stay out of trouble in that sense.
But they're also a bunch of fucking good old boys.
They are a bunch of fucking good old boys. I feel like from watching the arraignment video too, I don't know that this is so much going to be in the hands of the U.S. as it's going to be a deciding factor of whether the UK actually allows him to enter the country. Because like we said, he didn't have to surrender his passport. They didn't straight up tell him that he couldn't leave the country. I'm assuming that's probably because they did say this is his first offense.
Thank you, Scouts, for coming by. Go ahead, Alex. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. I feel like it's probably going to be in the hands of the UK and whether they allow them to come over or not.
We've got friends in the UK, and they've already said that they don't take kindly to weapons charges. They're one of the countries that keep a pretty tight lid on that kind of stuff. So even if our country's whatever, it's pending, you haven't been charged yet, I think the closer we get, we'll see maybe a couple red flags come up. I said earlier today, Al and I were talking about it, and I said, what if the plaintiff, the person, the victim in the crime, as it were, pushes for it? You know what I mean? And tries to push, they pushed the trial back for 2024 already. So there's no way that the trial will prevent him from going. But what if the plaintiff was like, I need to make sure, he can't skip out or something. I wonder if the legal system tries to prevent him from going.
I think they would have already had to have done that, though, when he was arraigned.
Well, I'm sure as fuck. I'm a chef, not a lawyer. So, I have no idea what I'm talking about.
And to what B Dave said, should they release him? I don't really think so. I would say not until, all of the information is at least heard, because he's claiming that it was self-defense and yada yada. This sounds really bad. He just flashed a gun. In my eyes, that's a threat. I wouldn't really. I know they consider it assault, but he didn't actually like.
Tell me you're from the American South without telling me you're from the American South.
That's the thing, though. I'm from up north. I'm basically almost in Canada.
Yeah.
But we're up here. We're a little more like tight on gun control, with the exception of a few counties. We're very against like that kind of stuff. But like, even I was reading it and I was like, should he have been arrested? Absolutely. Like that's an arrestable offense. It's at least a threat. Is it aggravated assault? No, that doesn't seem like that seems like a judicial term that probably
Did he hit
needs
him
to
with
be
the
changed.
pistol from between cars? Like, was he close
Right.
enough? He pulled like a
Yeah,
James
did he
Bond
pistol
maneuver
whip
out,
somebody?
and, like pistol whip somebody and jumped back in his moving. Is he Dominic fucking Toretto?
Right.
Like-
It sounds like it was essentially just a road rage incident that was probably on both parties. And Cash got a little too wild and decided that he was going to wave a gun. Here's my thing, though. Whether he's allowed to go to the UK or he's not, I'm of the opinion, even though this was his first time, I definitely think he should be suspended.
What was the guy's
Yes.
name, Alex? That was in. We were talking about him in the chat right after it all leaked. They just fired somebody for something similar to this for a weapons charge, wasn't it?
BJ Whitmer.
BJ Whitmer. There
It
you
was
go.
a domestic violence charge. It
Yeah,
wasn't necessarily
that's
with a
little-
weapon.
but
but
it's
still
still an
violent.
aggravated assault violence charge. Yeah, absolutely.
And if you remember the earlier days of AEW, Jimmy Havoc got fired too for similar domestic assault or domestic violence allegations. So, I mean, at this point, I don't think he should be fired, depending on what we find out. Obviously, I'm also not Tony Khan. I do think, though, to set an example for anybody else, I definitely think that's a suspendable offense.
Yeah. I'm just curious as to why it took them a month to file charges. It's almost like the dude didn't know who he was, and then like once he realized he was famous, you know what I mean? He's like, oh well, let me get
Jamie says, I think
attention.
Jamie says, I think dropping the belt is punishment enough, and maybe a 30-day vacation. I haven't read anything about them dropping the belts yet. Is Jamie just saying dropping the belt and taking
Like
a
that
30
would
day?
be his like.
Oh, okay.
Like he thinks like
Suspension.
that would be a good enough punishment.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I fully agree with that.
I think that
Well,
might
why
not be a
punish
bad one.
Dax?
I mean, but he
He's a
would.
singles run while he's gone.
Look
Yeah.
at what happened with Wesley and Nash Carter. Same thing.
Yeah, good point.
You know what I mean? Look at what happened with Animal and Hulk, Marty and Sean. Like, one guy was really bad and the other guy got in trouble for it. Like, this isn't the first time that's
Unfortunately,
happened.
that's just how it works with tag teams. Like
With the exception of the Usos.
Yeah.
With the exceptions of the Usos.
while drinking,
I was about to make a
You
really
know.
inappropriate joke about my yellow shoes that I used to wear.
I'm just saying.
Moving on to other things with AEW. They've spent so much time booking this card for All In that they have no match card for the pay-per-view a week later for All Out, minus one match with Miro. So how do you think they're going to pull this one out of their asses?
Didn't they book Joe and Punk last night
Yes,
on
so we have two matches.
okay. I was about to say, so
There's actually 3. They also booked Darby Allin and Luchasaurus.
Yes.
for the TNT title.
Yep,
So we're
that
just
is
like-
it, though.
Throwing shit together with no fucking build. Cool.
You gotta when you cook spaghetti, right? You gotta throw it at the wall and see if it sticks. That's how Tony Khan books his wrestling show. I'm sorry. I feel like we're shitting on Tony Khan. I like TK. We got a media call coming up. Let me get that link, please.
Oh, give it time. Once we get further into the fall, I'm sure we'll be shitting on WWE. That's when they put their worst product out.
Oh yeah. Everyone takes SummerSlam to January off.
Scout says nobody likes TK. I'm fine.
Yeah, and then we watch WWE from January all the way up until SummerSlam, and then everything else is garbage, and we wait until the Rumble.
It's a cycle. It's like the circle of life in wrestling.
Right. My problem is it seems like we're on a, no pun intended, collision course for MJF versus CM Punk, either to unify the titles or they need to figure out like a new name for Punk's real world title or whatever and give it a different look. But from the storyline sense, it looks like we're heading towards CM Punk MJF because he keeps making obvious hints. If that's the match planned for All Out, why it's what, August 9th, 20th, something like that right now? Why has that match not been announced yet? They're putting so much effort into this Adam Cole storyline in Wembley, which they obviously should. This is their biggest show, like attendance-wise, yet that they haven't yet booked for their biggest actual show of the year.
Yeah. So, Jax, what do you think?
I think they should have pushed All Out back a
I
month.
Mhm.
A month or so.
Yep.
Because I feel like AEW does a lot of throw shit against the wall and see what sticks when it comes to all of their pay-per-views. But this one's going to be on. You're going to have so many more eyes on this one, following All In.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't the situation to roll the dice.
No.
This was the situation to maybe build lower card talent.
I don't think that's a bad idea, but
No.
that goes into the whole argument of since they've ditched Evolution or Dark and Dark Elevation. I miss you too, Jamie. Do they have enough TV time to put over the younger talent now? Because Ring of Honor's an hour, Rampage is an hour, and then 4 hours of live TV is only 7 hours for a near 150 person, 175 person roster. Is 6 hours of TV enough to put that many people over?
Please don't give him ideas.
If you stop bringing indie talent in to get squashed on Ring of Honor.
Yep.
That's what he said he wanted to use Ring of Honor for. This reminds me of a politician who runs for office and makes all these grandeur promises about being the next messiah for pro wrestling and being what the business needs and all of the great things. And then when he gets into office, you start seeing all the corners he's cutting to make that happen.
Yeah.
And I feel like 4 years into AEW, a lot of these things are starting to get exposed.
Yeah, I agree.
Sean, what's up, buddy? Thanks for those subs. I'll sub for you any day, my friend.
What's up, Sean?
I also
Hope
almost
you're
think
having fun.
I also almost think that even as opposed to moving out All Out, they could have essentially made All In the All Out event this year and just had like a 1 year name change and then not do the All Out pay-per-view afterwards. And they could have ran Wembley as the biggest show of the year and have it just have like a 1 year name change. Like WWE's done that with certain pay-per-views, or they've added taglines on before. Could have easily done it this year and just not did All Out this year.
I have a little bit of if all in is going to perform, that crowd's going to make that show.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to is All Out not being too par going to tarnish like All In at all?
That one's going to be hard until the show actually happens, I think.
I do agree. I think that the crowd will make the scene.
Like, is this going to be a WrestleMania night 1, night 2 situation with All In and All Out?
Yeah, with them being 8 days apart or 7 days apart.
I think you need to start building big matches for that show now, because I think there might be some people that do decide to buy tickets for All Out based on how well All In did. And if you don't have a solid stacked card prepared, I think it's going to flounder in comparison.
No, I don't disagree at all. And I think you rolled the dice in a really bad way in putting these shows so close together, because it's hard to book one, $17 million gate show or whatever it was. And now you think about the fact that he has to back that up with another pay-per-view in the States, in Chicago, that's rolling off of that momentum too. And it seems like there's a whole lot of Ricky Bobby, I don't know what to do with my hands going on in Jacksonville right now.
This gives me that same weird vibe that I had back in 2020 when they ran SummerSlam, and then literally the next week later they had Payback. And the only thing that carried that Payback pay-per-view was Roman Reigns winning the Universal title, but they were also literally like a week apart. And I just pay-per-view shows that close together just don't. I'm not a fan.
AJ brings up a good point. If there's some shenanigans that happen on Sunday, we might get the third Adam Cole MJF match at All Out and be the rubber match for that series.
I mean, at least there's build up at that point.
Now it's time for All In Mode. Sean got a bunch of pictures from the Impact in New Japan show today, so
I'm
that's
just
cool.
more so pissed off that I have to pay for both of these pay-per-views in 2 weeks, and that there's not some little nice little package.
I'm putting this out there right now for everybody in the listening world. Me, Al, and Jax are going to be splitting it both weekends, and we're going to be stream sharing it. If you want to stream share All In and All Out with the Botched Bots and Chair Shots crew, let us know, and we'll get you in on it, and we'll tell you about the details and how to do it. I'm going to open it up because I sure as hell don't want to pay a near $100 for 2 pay-per-views.
Fuck no.
I would much rather hang out with my friends and have some drinks and smoke a little weed and watch wrestling with my friends than pay $100 to watch 2 cards that might be terrible. Thank you. Fuck you. Bye. What's next, Al?
Tell us how you really feel, sir.
Days like this that I'm thankful for the WWE network.
Yeah.
Yes, B. Dave. AEW does need a streaming
Yes,
service. It's
exactly.
like you and Alex were on the same wavelength as y'all.
Exactly.
As he sent it, you said it.
Earlier this month, WWE filed trademarks on Barely Legal, Hardcore Heaven, and Massacre on 34th Street,
Let's fucking go!
and CyberSlam. Beyond those old ECW show names, they've also applied for trademarks on Trish Stratus. I can't even say it. Ikemen, ICEMIN.
Ikemen Jiro.
Thank you. And The New Day, Feel the Power.
Ooh.
Okay.
Part of me hopes that's like a New Day cartoon show.
Me too.
I think it's actually going to be a podcast because I saw something else when I was doing research for today that they're about to release a bunch of podcasts.
That makes me sad. The New Day needs like their own cartoon show or anime
do.
or something. It'd be so good.
Scout says Impact is not Indian. I said, and we're typing it in the chat. Depends on who you ask.
So I'm surprised. I'm honestly surprised that they can. I mean, I know they can, but like, I know that Barely Legal, I assume, refers to some sort of death match situation where it's,
they're all former ECW
Right.
pay-per-views.
so like it just, again, I hear that term and I think porn. Is it
Porn.
wrestling or is it porn?
Is it wrestling?
No.
It's Allison's
That's what Paul-
favorite game. Is it wrestling or is it porn?
Why didn't we do that on trivia?
Maybe we should.
One week's trivia needs to be a list of names, and is this a wrestler or is this a porn star?
Hey, I'd lose that round. No, but that's what I think that's what Paul E had in mind when he named his pay-per-views. We're like, what to get the most pay-per-view buys. If you're some 15-year-old kid in the 90s flipping through and you want to watch something that says Barely Legal, you're like, yes, sir. And then it's a bunch of men beating the crap out of each other, and now you have a new fan.
Yeah, it's not quite what you were expecting, but you're still here for it for some reason.
Yeah,
Instead of women in their underwear, you got men in their underwear. It's a compromise.
they're tights.
Tights. I know. I'm just being facetious.
On to the Edge things. Sean Sapp of Fightful reported there's a belief that Edge may join All Elite Wrestling after his WWE contract expires in September. We know that the Hardys are there and Christian's there, and we know that Bubba Ray and Devon are working to get
Clearance from Impact.
So, I mean, could we have a TLC 2 reunion? 3? Could we have TLC 3? No, 4? Whatever fucking number it would be.
I think it would be 3, maybe 4.
It'd be 4.
I mean, my only problem with this is that Matt Hardy these days is real slow, and his baby's more popular than him.
I love Goth Baby.
I love Gothic Baby. But
Oh,
like,
Can we just put Maxwell in the match instead?
right? They will go to like they'll be out in public, and people will recognize the baby before they recognize Matt Hardy now.
Oh yeah, because his son's like super viral on TikTok.
No, it's his daughter.
Oh, is it his daughter?
His daughter. I think his son is too. But
It's like
more
his whole
so-
family is.
Yeah.
Rebby's gotten like the whole family over on TikTok.
Yeah, but like the most of the stuff that she does with is their little girl. So like she does like Day in the Life of a Gothic Baby. They put out a children's book starring her. Like there's all kinds of things.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And like she looks just like him. Like I mean, she's a tiny little Matt Hardy, and she's freaking adorable. But yeah, so like when your 2-year-old is more popular than you, I don't know. I think it would be cool, but like I worry that it would ruin the legacy of what those matches were in their day to see. No offense, these old fucks trying to do a TLC match.
Are you channeling your inner Aaron right now?
I am channeling.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna agree on that one. I think if they're gonna do a match, I think a regular like triple threat tag team match would be better up the alley. If I'm saying if they're going to, if they're hell bent on it, I'd rather see that than a TLC match. And my concern isn't even Matt Hardy; it's actually Jeff.
Jeff could really hurt himself in this situation.
Jeff, if you paid it, like if you watch any of his matches these days, he looks the poor man looks like he is in so much pain, constantly.
Emotionally, physically, spiritually,
like,
just in general.
Obviously, he's gone through a lot, and that's not my place to bring up. But like, just from a fan standpoint of watching it, he looks like he's hurt every time he's wrestling, and I don't want the man to kill himself in a ring. And also, my other second concern is actually Devon, because the man had a stroke a few years back. Has not wrestled in I don't know long. So like, how does he get cleared? Is he going to be okay taking bumps? We saw Bret Hart had a stroke back in the day, and he really was not able to wrestle like his former self when he faced Vince.
And Lawler wrestled into his 70s, and a stroke was what put him out.
Right. So like, I'm more concerned with the health of the people involved. Like Edge, Christian, they can go. Matt can work a style that will prevent him sometimes from showing how old he is. He is capable of that. But and Bubba's fine. I worry more about Jeff and Devon.
Yeah. PW Insider says that Warner Brothers Discovery was thrilled with the partnership that led to the AEW Dynamite Texas Chainsaw Massacre deathmatch, and will be seeking out additional potential opportunities in that vein. Please don't.
Yeah, I was going to say, but what if we didn't?
Maybe we'll get a Michael Myers.
Oh, Lord. That makes me really cringe because Halloween's coming up too.
Yeah, they're going to do something terrible.
They're going to do something stupid.
I'm kind of pissed at this one because, like, I didn't see them. Fightful notes that Summer Rae, Lana, and David Arquette were all backstage at Dynamite this past week.
That's fucking fire. Yes. The greatest WCW champion of all time.
Let's not go that far.
I love it more for the fact that I would truly like to see Lana and Miro reunited on television. I loved the initial Rusev run with him and Lana, so that'd be great if she was there to work out some sort of deal. This isn't the first time she's been at AEW either. She was spotted in the crowd like a month or two ago too.
B-Dave gave us his best JR. By God Almighty, it's Michael Myers.
Oh no!
My God Almighty,
that was really good.
Michael Myers.
A couple quick WWE just little notes. KO returned from injury for WWE SmackDown Dark Match after Edge's win. Logan Paul claims Dylan Dennis is a liar after he accused Paul of using steroids before their fight.
Real original, accusing a wrestler of using steroids.
AJ, why'd you say my name?
He timed you out.
Oh, I got timed out.
Yeah.
I'll be right back, guys.
You can't. Will can't go anywhere because if he goes somewhere, we can't hear Allison.
I guess it's us now. Now I'm gone.
See, I'm just messing shit up. I'll just shut up.
On his Click This podcast, Detroit native Kevin Nash said he offered to serve as the SummerSlam's Master of Ceremonies, but never heard back from WWE. Nash joked, I guess, that they didn't want this motherfucking liberal anywhere near that program.
What?
I love Kevin Nash so much. I think out of anybody in the wrestling business, Kevin Nash is always firing on all cylinders. With
He
his
ran out
comments
of
about the
fucks to
product.
give years ago.
Years ago. Before any of the bad shit happened to him, like even before that, it was like the moment he left TNA and did that one-off with Punk, he's just shitting and shooting on everyone, and I'm here for it.
He has 0 fucks to give, and it's okay.
I love Grandpa Nash.
Let's see. Bye-bye and good riddance to Lacey Evans. Deuces, ooses.
Yeah, that's pretty much all that needs to be said for that,
Please,
I guess.
by God, nobody fucking signed that horrible trash
Macy Estrella.
of a human being.
Also, her husband's ugly too. Let's throw that out there too.
Married way outside of his league.
Yeah, I mean, good for him, but
Let's hope for us all then.
There is
Everybody has a chance.
There is speculation. Paul Wright could be making his return to in-ring action for AEW, possibly as Captain Insano, based on his Instagram post.
Let it happen.
Oh. Part of me is gonna mark, but part of me, the moment I'm done marking, is gonna be like, okay, can we please do away with this?
WrestleTix is now saying AEW has distributed 80,056 tickets for All In.
Oh, let me.
Which puts them above SummerSlam 1992 and very close to WrestleMania 32.
I thought they passed WrestleMania 32's gate.
Yeah, I thought they did.
I thought it was officially the largest gate in wrestling history.
Sure.
No, didn't you say something, Will, to us about it passing WrestleMania 34s as well?
That's what I was thinking. Like, I remember specifically recently that it's literally now, if all the butts were to be put there, it can theoretically end up being the largest
maybe
wrestling
they
show.
sold all the tickets.
Okay.
Well, question: wouldn't Collision in Korea still be the largest?
I guess theoretically, because it was 104,000 or whatever.
Was that per day, or was that with both days combined?
Oh no, that was one day. That was the whole stadium got filled up for that, and they did multiple shows in Korea. But
So
that's
maybe they mean American shows, because technically that was hosted by Korea, obviously.
That was
event never happened.
SummerSlam 92 was in the UK though.
Yeah, that was the last time WWE was in Wembley. Yeah. New Japan Pro Wrestling, that was Antonio Inoki and Eric Bischoff that did Collision in Korea.
Yeah, I knew WCW was involved. I couldn't remember if New Japan was hosting it or if they just got invited in by the Korean government too.
Thank you for the bits, Tommy.
My last one, which is a tie-in to your topic this evening. You like how I did that? Because I'm cool.
Gunther 17 days away from breaking Honky's record. Thank you, AJ. We're counting down the days for somebody else to have that title or that record besides Honky Tonk Man.
Sammy Callahan calls Deonna Purrazzo one of the best technical wrestlers in the world.
I mean, one of the best women's wrestlers in the world. I can agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with the women's, yes.
This is technical.
I think, technically speaking, if she's the best technical women's wrestler,
I think it's regardless of gender.
Well, even looking at it from this perspective, I would definitely say she's one of the best women's performers on the planet right now. And I feel like that by nature puts you in maybe the top, 30 of all the men as well, if you think about total wrestlers. Because you think about like Charlotte Flair, you think about Deonna Purrazzo, Rhea Ripley. Some of these women are better performers than the men on their respective rosters.
Yeah,
So-
it's about putting them together and then kind of
There's-
ranking their moments and matches from there.
Yeah.
All right, here's a little bit of a hot take. As much as people don't like her, we're going
You
to
need
talk
the big
about
screen?
her anyway. No,
Okay.
but I mean, I personally think Tessa Blanchard is a little bit better than Deonna Purrazzo.
Technically, yes, I'll agree with you on that one.
Wow, that's a hot take. That's sizzling hot take, sir. She's tearing it up in the XPW arena. She wrestled Moose recently.
Yes.
Speaking of another former Impact World Champion, she wrestled Moose.
Yeah, if we're going from like an in-ring standpoint, and we're not talking about how the person has acted like outside of the business, I don't think I can argue. I don't think there's a single point I can argue there. When she was in Impact and going through her biggest of runs, which will end up getting brought up tonight, I argued that she was the best talent on the roster at number one on the roster at the time. But unfortunately for me, where like the greatest of all time start getting brought up, or like greatest of whatever right now, she's done a little too many distasteful things for
Yes.
me to like all around consider her that.
I'm the king of separating the art from the person. I'm literally hosting part 2 of the Benoit story on Botched Spots After Dark this week. Like, I'm not, from the journalistic side of my life, I'm not afraid of touching hot topics. You know what I mean? I'll talk about them. But I feel like that level, it's almost easier to talk about Benoit sometimes because he is gone, whereas Tessa is still here and has continued to say and do those terrible things. You know what I mean? Like that. I feel like that's the difference. It'd be different if she had done it and apologized and corrected her life. She never did any of that. She just kept going like none of it happened. And I feel like that's why I have a problem with it. Because everybody else who hires her says, it doesn't matter that you said those things and never apologized. We'll just pretend like it didn't happen.
Yeah, it's like she had the one issue that obviously what she did to Impact, the racial remarks she made, the heat she had with AJ Lee. There's too much for me to actually like her because of that. But again, if we're talking an in-ring standpoint, Tess is one of the greatest women technical wrestlers of all time, in my opinion. One of, not the, but one of.
In ring, yes, but I think her out of ring attitude has tarnished her
legacy. Yep,
her image and her legacy. Like I'm never like one of those guys who refuses to go to a show. But they had a show with her on it here in Jacksonville that had a couple controversial people on it. I said, I think I'll skip this one.
There's a couple things that's a do not pass go with me. And when you start getting into the racial and religious genre and spectrum, I usually try to stay far away from those as possible. They're like politics. And Tessa allows herself to constantly enter those realms. So to me, I don't want to put myself in a situation where that could be brought up. You know
I also don't want to give those people my money.
Bingo. Thank you. That's
I
like you, Alex. You say the things that I'm eloquently dancing around. You just come out and say it. We're not going to give you our fucking money.
Yeah, no, I don't want to pay you.
That's my hard-earned gold. You got anything else for us before we switch over?
That is all. So, gentlemen, I bid you all adieu, as I am not very well versed on the impacts. As much as I would like to sit here and look pretty, I'm not gonna. So,
she's like, yeah, not doing that tonight.
I know I'm super late to this party, but I just downloaded Hogwarts Legacy.
Ooh.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I haven't started it yet either, so I'm right there with you. I'll have to start it soon so we can talk about it in the chat.
Yeah. But I shall bid you adieu. Don't embarrass me. Thank you very much.
Have a good night, Allison.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Do you want me to call you back in here when we get ready to do
I'm
the
just
cash
gonna go
out?
backstage. Yeah.
Oh my God, she's still there?
It's magic of television. All right, gentlemen. Alex, you weren't here for the first run of this.
I know, that's my favorite part too. I'm so upset.
AJ says, "Well, I hope Thomas Latimer cashes in his NWA TV title and beats Cyrus for the 10 pounds of gold." AJ, I have this perfect thing in my head planned where we're going to get EC3 as the 10 pounds of gold. He's going to beat Tyrus at 75 on Sunday night. He's going to win the 10 pounds of gold. And then we're immediately going to get into the EC3 Matt Cardona feud, which I think is going to be the resurgence factor. So AJ, just please have a little bit of hope, because after we get EC3 and Cardona, we're going to get Latimer versus whoever has the title at that point. And I have no doubt in my mind it's going to be great television. Sorry, go ahead, Alex.
I was going to say, to tie into that real quick, I didn't mean to start laughing, but Will, all I could think of was that meme I sent you the other day that was like, here's 4 photos of Jennifer Lawrence that'll make you say, wait, that's not Jennifer Lawrence. That's NWA World Heavyweight Champion and Fox News contributor Tyrus. It was one of the funniest.
I don't want Tyrus as a champion anymore. Trust me, I'm a diehard NWA fan, even through the worst of what they've been doing here recently. If anybody is ready for Tyrus to not hold that belt anymore, it's me. So at the bottom of the screen, you can see the Impact World title starting at Jeff Hardy, going through Alex Shelley. If we make it that far, Scout says EC3 is definitely beating Tyrus. So let's kind of pick up where the conversation left off, gentlemen. We're looking at the 2012-ish range for the Impact TNA World titles. We've got Jeff Hardy. We're starting there with his 3rd reign. He had 8 matches during this reign. He held it for 147 days. And one of the things that I'm just diving right into with this was we talked about, especially in this range of Impact, they had shorter title reigns. They were 60 days and 90 days, maybe 100. But for Jeff to reach almost 150 days with 7 successful defenses before he dropped it, you look at the longevity of it. This was longer than any of his title reigns in WWE. Was Jeff Hardy solidified as a world champion, or do you think these longer TNA runs, since we're just going to dive right into it, did they help solidify Jeff Hardy as that definitive world champion?
I think personally that he was already solidified at this point. No, his title reigns may not have lasted as long in WWE, but they had great stories around them. His first WWE championship reign, you had, Jeff winning the world title for the very first time. There was a big hurrah around it, which led to the turn of Matt Hardy, which got us the brother versus brother match at WrestleMania 25. So, great story around that whole entire reign. The second one was when he beat Edge in the TLC match, I believe. Because I think the third one, he beat Punk for the title and then lost it back to him.
That was definitely Edge then.
Yep. So that one was okay. At that point, I think it was just we already knew Jeff was a mainstay on SmackDown at that point. So the main event scene of SmackDown around that time was really just Triple H, Edge, and Jeff Hardy. We saw CM Punk slowly coming back into the limelight and a couple others. So that one was okay. And then the third one I really enjoyed because that was part of CM Punk's heel turn into the Straight Edge Society and Jeff Swanson at the time from WWE. So I felt all 3 had some pretty good stories. The second title run, by the way, ending from CM Punk cashing in Money in the Bank. So I thought those all had really good stories around them. So he was already solidified, in my opinion. For me, the title reigns that he ended up having in TNA, I think, as a fan watching, it was almost like he was kind of getting his flowers that he deserved. He was getting a chance to show how he could run as a longer-term champion and, kind of boost an already fulfilled legacy.
Jax, what you got on Jeff Hardy?
I think Jeff Hardy I agree with Alex, but his WWE run solidified him. I think Jeff Hardy in this run just helped solidify the TNA title more.
Yeah.
It helped put oh shit, okay, Jeff Hardy's got it. He just came off this amazing feuds and he was the guy for a hot minute. But I think he elevated the TNA title.
Do you guys think the title makes the man or the man makes the title?
Man,
Or do
makes-
you think it's different from scenario to scenario?
I think it's different from scenario to scenario because there's a lot of times where we'll use Jeff for an example again. The title made the man when he won the WWE title. Jeff crossed the threshold into main event talent at that point, and from the future going on. Like Jack said, though, in this situation with TNA, I think the man made the title because they were occasionally floundering a little bit with the short reigns, and I think giving Jeff a bona fide top tier talent who was just world champion in WWE a few years prior, I think it helped make the title in this scenario.
The guy who beat him did so in a cage.
Can I say one more thing about the Jeff Hardy reign too?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Don't mean to
No.
interrupt.
Go ahead.
The other thing about this title reign too is this was the redemption title reign. This was Jeff coming back and returning from the Victory Road incident and slowly working his way back up to the top of the card too.
That's also true. We didn't really touch on the whole Victory Road stuff then because when he did the Sting match wasn't a world title match. So we didn't really focus on that era too much of the Jeff Hardy stuff. But looking at it and you bringing that up, this Victory Road 2011, right?
Yep. Yeah, so this was his redemption storyline of him coming back, having to get back over with the boys in the locker room. The only thing that and then I'll be done after this, the only thing that I kind of was bummed about with Jeff winning the title here is that Austin Aries was actually on a pretty decent roll after beating Bobby Roode, and then they randomly turned him heel just so he could lose the title to Jeff. And it felt like a weird throw together main event for me. The aftermath was good, but I was not a big fan leading up to the title reign.
Bully Ray beat our boy in a cage match. This goes into a very unique period in Bully Ray's career and legacy and history. If I remember right, was this Aces and Eights Bully Ray?
Yep.
Yes.
So, like, you're looking at one of, like, the most definitive, like, Bully Ray. He set himself apart because you think about tag team wrestlers in pro wrestling and how a lot of times you see them, they're having trouble. There's always a Jannetty, right? That was never really the case with the Dudleys because both of them seem to have great successes. Bully Ray, however, do you think this is a kind of another question? Was this TNA title reign kind of that point for Bully Ray, though? Because up until this point, he had success as a singles competitor, but this was the first time or one of the first times that he really had that push as the singles guy, face of the company by himself, even all the way back into his ECW run. Like, he'd always been part of the Dudley family. Like, shout out, like those guys have been around forever. And then you think about into the WWF, WWE, him and Devon. And then past that, it was kind of the Dudley boys. This was Bully Ray being like his own guy. Like, what do you guys think about Bully Ray? Like, going into a 130-day reign, not a pushover either, but it's still a good reign.
This is my second favorite TNA world title reign in the company's history. The only one I put above this is AJ Styles' 2009 reign when he won the title. But this was a weird time in pro wrestling where all companies were really struggling to get top tier heels. In WWE, you really only had CM Punk slowly transitioning. He might have even still been a babyface at this point. No, he had turned heel at this point. So WWE really had CM Punk, and that was about it. Bully Ray was the best heel in TNA at this point, and one of the best heels in the business. He could talk, he could wrestle, and at this point, I compare this to on the heel side. I compare this to Kofi Kingston's WrestleMania 35 moment. He was already a Hall of Famer. There was no doubt about it. At this point in his career, he was already going to be in both the Impact and WWE Hall of Fames. But he got what he deserved for putting on so many good shows, promos, matches, whether they were tag team. The stuff he did slowly started doing in Immortal before the Aces and Eights became a thing. And not to forget that Bully winning this title reunited the reunited Team 3D as well in the Aces and Eights. So yeah, this was one of my favorite title reigns in TNA's history.
Jaxpo.
The whole storyline moving up into this title with the Brooke Hogan and how he got his title match and how he was able to pull it off and win the title. I have to agree with Alex on this one, man. The best heel in the business at the time, and till this day, still one of the best heels TNA's ever had. And I mean, he keeps coming back and keeps just becoming more and more of a dick.
Mm-hmm. And he's still peaking too.
And he peaks every time. And
every time.
I love to hate Bully Ray. Like, I hate it when he's on my TV, but I love it because I know I'm going to get some actual good work.
I think this version of Bully Ray with the feud he had with Scott D'Amore and everything that they were doing now is it's like almost like a new version still. Like he's still recreating himself in wrestling.
One of the smartest men in the business. He's
always had a mind. Like crazy mind for the business. And when you listen to him on Busted Open, like the way he talks, you listen to him speak and you're like, this dude has done nothing but eat, sleep, and breathe wrestling his entire life. Like when you listen to people who know the business the way somebody at that level does, they speak about it differently. The way it sounds, like it's unreal. Bully Ray is definitely one of those people.
There's not many people in the business anymore where they can speak so eloquently that you hinge on every single word that they say. Bully Ray is one of them.
I like the fact with him too is that he's always constantly his entire latter half helped put over younger talent. And I think that's something some guys don't ever truly learn how to do until it's almost too late sometimes. And Bully's doing a good job of putting young guys over. And speaking of those young guys, 2013, a young guy dethroned Bully Ray. If I'm gonna hold my hand up, and then I'm gonna point at it. Okay. Motor City Machine Guns, Chris Sabin, dude. 28-day reign. This is what I start talking about. We start seeing some of these 28, 66, 9, the next 3 reigns with this title. They're all short and sweet and to the point. They all get stuff done. Chris Sabin's only TNA Impact title run to date, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
What did you guys like thinking about where the Motor City Machine Guns were a decade ago and thinking that Chris Sabin had his title run and Alex Shelley just now got his title run 10 years later?
I think that so if you had asked me what had me pissed off for greatness back then, I would have had so many answers regarding this because from a personal standpoint, I've always loved the Motor City Machine Guns. I don't know if at that specific time Chris Sabin was ready for the world title yet. He was
a young dude. He wasn't. Yeah.
I'd argue he's more ready for it now than anything. However, at that time, I would also argue that Alex Shelley was more ready for it than Chris Sabin was. But from a business standpoint, Chris Sabin's title win is one of the biggest pops that TNA has ever gotten. Again, I bring back the AJ Styles 2009 victory, winning the world title. Very similar. I watched that one live, and the crowd lost their shit for Chris Sabin winning. So I just personally think he deserved longer than a 28-day title reign from a business standpoint.
TNA still had that very underground, not indie feel, but even as late as 2013, like a 10-year-old promotion still had that. They hadn't quite ascended to being the other program yet. They weren't an AEW big, but nobody expected them to be 10 years old at 10 years. Nobody expected them to hit 20 years when they hit 20 years. Jax, I know you've been passionate about this title. When you found out we were going to do it, you're like, I want to be a part of it. And now you're here every Sunday anyways. But like, as somebody who likes the Impact World title, what did you think about Sabin getting it then?
I can tell you to this day where I was sitting who I was watching it with, and my reaction when Chris Sabin won the title. Because when I saw Bully Ray pick him up for the power bomb and he hit Bully Ray with the hammer, went down and he hit 1, 2, 3, I popped like I was a Motor City Machine Gun fan.
Because it was David versus Goliath, right? Because he hit him. It was just like the Avalanche. He just went down, wrapped the legs, pinned him for the finish, right? That was clean and right there.
Yeah. And I mean, it was everything about it was like, all right, cool. The underdog can do it. Like it was shocking TV. It was on TV. It wasn't a pay-per-view. It wasn't I think it was one of their TV specials, maybe. But it was just one of the moments where I went, right, dude, yes. The underdog got it.
Very poetic, too, that he hit Bully Ray with the hammer, just like Bully Ray hit Jeff Hardy with the hammer to win the title as well.
That's what I think long-term storytelling. It's not necessarily bloodline stuff. It's little things. The hammer, the cell phone with Paul Lee. If you go back in WCW days, like the big brick cell phone was always so important to his character work. You know, like little things like that come back throughout time. Because if you look at Paul now, what does he do every week on television?
He's got a cell phone.
He's on his phone. Exactly. That goes back to the 80s. That's what I think about with long-term storytelling. And even with it only being a few months or a month and a half or whatever it was, like, or I guess it was 90. So about 4.5 months. That was still 4.5 months for that hammer to come back into the picture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I enjoy that when they have those, like, coming around moments. Bully Ray took the belt off of him for his second reign, 66 days. And I don't want to bypass Bully, but we've said so much about who he was. Some of the inner workings of these like finer, these 60-day reigns I'm gracing over. Specifically go to AJ Styles' second reign, which led to the vacate of the title. Like he left the company, everything that happened with AJ leaving Impact. He had seemed to be, I just bit the tip of my tongue while I was saying that. That fucking sucked. He seemed to be like that TNA Impact, that home guy, that homer. He was going to be there his whole career. He was going to carry, and then he left. Like, do you guys remember AJ leaving Impact? Yeah, and like what it was like going through it, the loss of it. I had stopped watching Impact roughly a little bit before this happened. It was like that 2013 to 2018 range. I had kids and got serious with my job. Shit happened. So I'm rewatching a lot of that. But like, what did you guys think about it when AJ left Impact after being the face of the company as long as he was?
This run for AJ was, I think it was, hey, we'll put the title on you. You just need to stay because he was out the door. It was a very short run. They shoved a lot of shit in over those 9 days he held the title. And I think it was to, hey, stay with us kind of thing. So I remember him going out and him being like, I'm the real champ. Magnus being, I'm the real champ. Was not a fan of that storyline. I'm never a fan of the I'm the real champ, you're the real champ storyline. One world title. We don't need 6 of them. My
issue with 2 issues, obviously. One, I was as a very avid TNA fan, I was pissed that AJ was leaving. When I was younger and first came upon TNA, found it just flipping through channels, watched a match between Christian Cage and AJ Styles, stopped because I knew who Christian was. AJ Styles kept me watching that show because I was like, this guy's new. I've never heard of him. Like just watching him evolve as a performer from the younger days of him being an X Division star to like the Christian Coalition up to the main event runs. I witnessed almost all of it. So like this hurt, and this was the beginning of me slowly starting to watch TNA not as frequently as I used to. My other gripe I had with this whole storyline is they were basically trying to copy the CM Punk storyline from the summer of 2011. You had him come out, cut almost a pipe bomb like promo where he actually nonchalantly mentions CM Punk in the promo, And then you do the unification thing that they did between CM Punk and John Cena, maybe 8 months prior. It was a knockoff copy storyline, and I was like sitting there watching it. I'm like, man, if he's really out the door, no wonder he wants to fucking leave. The story was garbage.
Jacksbo, you got anything for me?
It just wasn't it was lackluster. There's not a lot to say on it. It was very short.
When guys leave companies like that and they've been the guy, one of my favorite interview questions is when I interview world champions. I've been lucky enough to have interviewed a couple. One of my favorite questions to ask is, what's it like getting the call knowing you're the guy now? You know, you've got that rocket on your back. You're going to have to carry the promotion, good, bad, or indifferent, whether it's an indie promotion all the way up to WWE. Like, what's it like being the guy? Looking at AJ Styles now, 2023 AJ Styles, the Good Brothers, the Club, Meech and Mia Yim, AJ Styles. Is this AJ Styles the guy?
No, but I think he was one of the guys for WWE from about, I'd say 2016 to 2018. I think I don't fault WWE as much. I'd like to see them do a little more with him, but I don't fault him as much because we also know that AJ Styles is in the very last few years of his career. He's made it very transparent that he does not have many years left. And I think he's now slowly starting to go into that role of trying to put over younger talent and helping the younger talent on his way out. I'd like to see them do a little more than this with him, or at least do a little more with the OC. But I think AJ's mindset in career, I don't want to speak for him, but just kind of watching him, I almost feel like he's kind of trying to help put over the younger generation on his way out from the business.
I can see that. I like AJ. I've kind of always been an AJ stan, even with his TNA stuff. New Japan. I put a TikTok out a few months ago because somebody called him a WWE guy. And I was like, AJ Styles is the furthest from a WWE guy I think you could be to have won the WWE championship.
Yeah.
You could consider AJ Styles a WCW guy, if anything.
Well, I think longevity of his career, you have to look at his work. To me,
yeah,
he'll always be a TNA Impact guy.
Yeah.
Because of where he had the most success. And even arguably after that, you could almost say New Japan over WWE, not for longevity because he's worked in WWE longer, but he had, I would say, more successful title reigns for sure in New Japan. He was pretty much holding gold the whole time he was there.
He also made Bullet Club mainstream media. He made Bullet Club pop culture. Yes, it was obviously Finn Balor that started it, but AJ coming in and taking over was what pushed Bullet Club to the upper echelon. What I will say, though, about this title reign and him leaving is the one good thing that came out of it is I was like, holy shit, there's a chance he could actually end up in WWE now.
Yeah, and it took him 3 years, but he made it.
So he had a couple trips to make on the way.
He had to find out if Japan was all everybody said it was cracked up to be.
Yep.
After AJ, we come into what I will call the first run of the Impact homegrowns in a lot of ways. And Lashley, maybe not so much, but you look at Magnus, you look at EY, Lashley, Bobby Roode, and then Lashley again. Like the run, this almost 3-year run from March of 2013 all the way through till January of 2015. You look at that stretch where Magnus, Eric Young, Lashley, and Bobby Roode, those 4 guys for the better part of 3 years, pretty much carried the company on their back. And none of them up until this point had really been super established stars in Impact. So these were fresh faces coming into the programs, fresh feuds, and they carried it for 3 years. Looking at it with Magnus's 128-day reign before Kurt Angle took the belt back in London, the run of those 4 guys, how did y'all feel about it as Impact fans, seeing 4 fresh faces that weren't your AJ Styles, that weren't your Jeff Hardys, that weren't your Jeff Jarrett's? We had Magnus and EY now, like 2 new guys, 2 guys that we didn't know too much about.
I loved the Magnus reign.
And we're to the blue strap now, right? Didn't we
No, not
transition
yet.
over?
Nope. We're still at the TNA one. I
The
don't.
big TNA one.
The
The big
TNA,
TNA?
the big gold TNA title does not disappear until I believe Alberto El Patron.
Okay.
Yep.
But also Magnus at this point becomes the first British professional wrestler to win a world heavyweight championship on a major American pro wrestling TV show. So, which is weird because I always thought it would be Wade Barrett, but that's neither here nor there.
Another WWE dropped ball, my friend.
Yeah, tell me about it. There's still a chance, though. There's still a
I
chance.
hear the comeback. Wade Barrett, Corey Graves, WrestleMania. Please make it happen.
He's in the game. He's got to come back and wrestle. He's in the game. I really enjoyed the Magnus run. I thought Magnus was kind of floundering as a babyface there for a little bit, especially because this kind of branched off of the reuniting of the Main Event Mafia and having Magnus in it, which always felt out of place because he was the only guy in that group aside from Rampage Jackson, which I'm not counting because he was barely there. He was the only guy in the group that wasn't in the original incarnation, and it just felt weird to me. And I think he was very clearly the weak link, but the moment he turned heel, he was firing on like a completely different cylinder.
Jax, when you think about Nick Aldis, okay, 1,043 days as NWA World Champion. He's been TNA World Champion, everything he's done. But here he's Magnus still. He's young. He's still hungry.
This is how I feel about Nick Aldis. Thank you, Nick Aldis.
You're just saluting the man.
He
he's
saved my company.
He is everything he's cracked up to be. Is that what we're all agreeing for? Nick Aldis is the real deal?
And a bag of chips, baby.
I think this title reign was what
solidified.
I think this was the foundation in which Nick Aldis was built off of. Like his character work that he started doing.
Get it now. The everything he is now started here as Magnus in 2013.
This title reign, absolutely.
I like that. Jax, you agree?
Yes.
Looking at who Magnus was and then who he became in Nick Aldis, EY, you could kind of say a lot of ways the same thing about, because Eric Young came in, he won this title, and it was like everything for him. He kind of ate, slept, and breathed Impact Wrestling. He was the embodiment of it for a long time. Like he kind of thought he was going to be the next coming of an AJ Styles, sort of. What did y'all think when Eric Young got the belt, though? Because he was very different. He was cut from a different cloth than some of these other guys. He definitely wasn't a Magnus, that was for sure.
My hot take.
Yeah? Here it comes.
I hated this title reign.
I didn't understand it.
Very happy for Eric Young that he was able to become champion. 100% deserved it. This was another case of TNA ripping off WWE because the lead up to this match, there was very much so shades of the Daniel Bryan story that he was going through at the same exact time.
And the what was it in the grocery store? They even did the grocery store bit with EY at this point.
And also this title reign, I believe I think Eric Young won it about a week after WrestleMania when Daniel Bryan won the title too. I think WrestleMania 30 was like a week prior, but Daniel Bryan had just won the title, and then they basically ripped off the same story at the same time. I think a better time for Eric Young to have been world champion for the first time would have been when he was the leader of World Elite. Or is that what it was? World Elite? The group that had like an association with the Main Event Mafia's first incarnation that had like Eric Young, Sheik Abdul, Bashir.
I think so, but once again, y'all are leading a lot of this conversation, and I'm just looking at my list of names and notes because I wasn't actively watching Impact, and a lot of this I've gone back and tried to rewatch, but like some of this is first watch for me, or especially some of the house shows and some of the one-off TVs I've never seen because I wasn't actively watching Impact week to week at this point.
Aside from his work in Sanity in NXT, I think Eric Young's best heel work was when he was leading World Elite. back in like 08, 09. And I think that would have been a better time for a first world title run. My problem is that he was still like kind of a comedy character at this point too.
Yeah, he wasn't very serious. It wasn't like it was still a little goofiness of Eric Young.
Yeah.
When I interviewed Eric, I talked to him about sanity specifically. Obviously, it's hard not to talk to him about his, that later WWE run with the NXT tag titles. But he said when he got there, that was the first time with Triple H that I think in the interview, the quote was something along the lines of, Hunter just kind of let me do what I wanted. You know what I mean? He came in and they let him really build sanity of what he thought sanity should look like, down to their entrance and their gear. And they really let him kind of shape his own thing. But now looking at Eric Young in 2023, we've seen him leave Impact. We've seen him come back to Impact. He was killed, literally stabbed to death on live TV. Murdered. We've seen a lot of different incarnations of Eric Young. Kind of the same thing I asked you guys about Nick Aldis and Magnus, like looking at where Eric Young was a decade ago to where he is today. Like, is Eric Young the guy? Do you think Eric Young could come in and be an Impact World Champion? If he does end up in WWE, could he be a WWE like mid-card Intercontinental Champion? Like, do you think Eric Young 10 years ago was more viable of an asset for your company than Eric Young in 2023?
I think Eric Young in 2023 is a more viable asset. Like this first run for Eric Young holding the world title, to me, it could have been saved for someone else.
Or saved for him later on.
I mean, you could have made, and I'm not trying to jump ahead, but you could have made Magnus's run a little bit longer, and Magnus and Lashley could have had a banger of a match. But I understand at that point, Dixie Carter was still in charge. She was trying to do what was on the other TV would work on her TV. And it was a pointless title run. And like, I was excited for Eric Young because it was another underdog kind of thing. But when you look back at it, you go, there's no significance.
Yeah. Speaking of Dixie Carter, I believe right around this area, we're starting to slowly go into the Billy Corgan era as well.
Oh no, we have to get to the GFW first.
GFW. Okay, I couldn't remember.
Yeah, which we're coming up with Eli and Alberto and all them.
Okay,
that is.
Yeah, I think Eric Young's viable asset now in TNA, Impact, whatever you'd like to call it. I think his character was ruined in WWE to a point where that wouldn't be a thing. And it's not going to be a thing now that Vince is firmly back in a position of power. Eric Young has gone on the record saying he will not work for Vince McMahon.
I don't think that's a bad move.
Yeah. I can't say I blame him.
No.
Can't say I blame the man. But I can see him being a viable Impact champion again.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Especially the state of the company right now. Yeah.
Fuck, hell yeah. Especially his return at Slammiversary, man.
That was a huge pop. You and I were watching that show together, Jack. So that was a big pop when he came out.
The combination of him coming back and as a Team Canada member, shivers.
I'm going to put Lee Walker on blast because he had some of that Lee Walker news and asked me on air a question, but knew the answer to it before he asked me.
Yeah.
I was like, you son of a bitch. It was a prediction show and he already knew. And then when I called him out on it, he hit me with the Lee Walker side eye. And I was like, you motherfucker.
Like he just got caught.
Yeah. I was like, you knew that, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, no. It just wasn't it wasn't the right time or place.
It was not.
I think he could have been viable. It was still, he could be a star now. He could have been a star 5 years ago. He could have been a star 9 years ago. And I think it's one of those things that we could say a lot with Impact and TNA, especially, no doubt, during the Dixie Carter, this is Dixie Carter, Dutch Mantell, Vince Russo, like all of these shenanigans were happening. These electrified steel cage matches and shit. You know what I mean? Like,
awesome.
I don't want to go off the rails. This is obviously going to need a part 3. So, like, when they get into this shit and you start thinking about some of the stuff TNA was doing at that point, when I talked to Russo about it, and another shameless plug for a Botched Spots interview, but when I talked to Russo about it, he said when he came into Impact, Dutch and Dixie were like, they had this, and he said it in the interview. So to elaborate what you said, Alex, you're absolutely right. They were taking stuff WWE was doing and the wild and crazy shit Dutch did in Puerto Rico in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and trying to figure out a way to blend them together.
Yep.
And Russo said when he came in, they had this grandeur idea of how they were going to do it, and they were going to use Russo as a bargaining chip to help get TV deals and shit. So once again, Russo is side 1, side 2 in the truth in all scenarios with him. But like, did they go to the well too many times on those gimmick matches? Because they were doing some wild ass gimmick matches, dude.
I think so, because also around this time, I believe, is when Spike dropped TNA as well, because of all of that shit too.
That's been the story of them. Is they started as the company that didn't need a TV deal, and then they would get TV deals, then they would lose TV deals, then they would get them back, and now they do the fight. They do what is it? They do YouTube and they do Access Plus. Are the 2 ways to watch Impact, right?
Yeah, you can watch Access TV, but it's not on regular cable. You have to pay extra to get the channel. And what I'm not going to do, when I'm already paying Spectrum for a certain amount of money for cable, is pay an extra amount of money to get Access TV to watch one show.
We switched to Hulu TV for that reason, was because we were tired of getting rammed by Comcast. And Hulu TV has tons of stuff. Vice, everything for Dark Side, tons of stuff. You can watch independent wrestling on some of the channels they've got. Yeah, tons of content on Hulu TV, man. And Tubi's another great one as well. Another free app that's got tons of wrestling content. I think the one thing holding Impact and NWA both back in 2023 is the absence of a quality TV deal.
Yep.
And I think if they want to get their product out, and looking at where MLW is, I almost feel like MLW is a step ahead of both of them, because MLW already has their foot in the door with a quality TV deal. They're weekly TV on Tuesday nights now. So I think, could a good TV deal make that number 3 spot different overall?
The problem with Impact, though, is the fact that they're on the network television show they're on is owned by the company that owns Impact.
Yeah,
so they're not leaving Access. I think at this point, what Access needs to do is they need to vie for a better network television channel.
Okay,
Access
that's getting above my pay grade, Alex. I love your brain, but I couldn't imagine what would entail in buying a network, so that way you would have a better home spot for your wrestling.
Wow, I can't speak. They would. I feel like they'd effectively, basically, have to pay to be in primetime, because they're not right now. They need a primetime network channel, one that's not being used. I don't know, but I know they're not going to leave Access TV. It's not going to happen because they own the company.
Let me ask you a question. How about this? What if Disney were to partner with it and put like an hour of Impact on like ESPN or ABC, a la Wide World of Sports in the 80s?
Throw it on Disney Plus.
Like, do you see what I'm going, though? Because Access doesn't really have a landing spot for them. But Al immediately chimes back in from the nether. She's like, absolutely not. No, Disney.
Hear me out. Hear me out. A cartoon Disney movie featuring PCO.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, there you go. Scooby-Doo with PCO.
Like, the Haunted Mansion, like, Frankenstein, and then all of a sudden PCO's like, what's up, guys? A crazy French-Canadian draw. Let's take a look. We'll knock a couple more out before we get into the Kurt Angle run.
I love that run.
Before we sign off, I know you're an Angle guy. The last 2 guys we'll touch on before we hit Angle's 6th run are Bobby Roode and Bobby Lashley, guys. Bobby Lashley is one of those guys who almost has had equally as good of career outside the WWE as he's had in the WWE, solely because of how WWE has handled him. Is that a hot take?
Yeah.
Like, he's had multiple Impact title runs. He's 2 Impact title runs to 2 WWE title runs, tag titles, mid cards, the Bellator titles.
Former
But-
ECW champion as well.
Yeah. So his outside of WWE work is almost equal or greater to his inside of WWE work. That's my hot take on Bobby Lashley.
I agree, 100%. He, I think of him in the same way that I compare Kurt Angle's WWE and TNA careers.
I can agree with
Maybe
that.
not to the same extent, but same theme.
That makes sense. I can see where you're going with it for sure.
Because obviously Kurt's won way more titles, but like they were treated with the same respect in two different companies, I feel. I do think though that this was the start of the Bobby Lashley, obviously, that we have now. This was completely different than the Bobby Lashley that we saw towards the end of his WWE run in 07, 08. Lashley showed that he could go in the ring around that time with his 2 runs as ECW champion, but he was obviously very much so not prepared on the mic to speak in front of crowds at that time. His Impact World title runs gave him the opportunity to speak when MVP wasn't speaking for him, to be able to put on higher quality matches than he was able to do in his first run with WWE, because in his first run, they liked to pair him up with a lot of big guys just to show how strong he was. I feel like they didn't really give Bobby Lashley the opportunity to show what he could actually do in the ring in his first run. And I loved that for Bobby Lashley. And I also think this is kind of where I wouldn't say the start of the Hurt Business, but like the model.
Seeds.
The seeds were planted for the Hurt Business here, because what they did with Lashley, MVP, and Kenny King was very similar to how WWE later on would form the Hurt Business. And I love that they carried MVP over and kept his alliance with Bobby Lashley in a different company as well.
Jax, I'm going to try to work it in between hiccups. That's,
I'm sorry.
Bobby Lashley. Like I said, Alex is way more eloquent than I am, and that's hard to do. So I applaud you for that, my friend.
Thank you.
When you look at, like I said, Bobby Lashley's outside of WWE career surpasses what he's done with the Fed. Do you agree or disagree with me? Remind yourself that you aren't a fish almost always cures them. I'm not a fish. That's an easy fix.
I think they're equal, if not maybe WWE a little bit higher, because he did a lot in TNA that proved that he could do it. And I think that WWE, his original WWE run when he held the ECW title, was them maybe toying with the idea of having him as world champ.
Yep.
But I don't think they were still there yet, if everyone understands.
Yep.
I don't think Vince was there yet, putting the title on Bobby. So him leaving and doing the MMA stuff and winning world champions outside of WWE proved that, hey, I can be your guy. I can hold your company. And then going back to WWE, Impact really helped reinsurge Bobby Lashley's career to what we have now.
So I'm actually going to go a little bit in the opposite direction. I think they're very close as well. I put TNA a little bit higher. And I say that because in these few years afterwards where we don't have AJ Styles in TNA anymore, Bobby Lashley's the guy that carried the company on his back. I don't think there was any man more put into one of those positions as a world champion for TNA that carried that company during that time frame than Bobby Lashley. I think it was what's the word I'm looking for? Almost, I don't want to say like revelation, but like it showed that this guy is capable of being the man. This guy is capable of carrying a company as their world champion. And yeah, no, for that reason, I would put it just slightly higher, but also Bobby Lashley's career isn't over yet. I already love what they're doing with him and the Street Profits. 9 times out of 10, with the exception of that god-awful Sami Zayn feud he had years back, Lashley's a guy who, from this point in his career onwards, kind of a home run guy every time he steps up to the plate.
Jax, let me ask you a question about these guys. Magnus, Eric Young, Lashley, Bobby Roode. Before we get into Kurt Angle and we sign off, do you think Lashley had the biggest impact on the title with 1,000% of the puns intended? And after he gives his answer, Alex, you can give yours about of those four guys. Because I said this was kind of like that new regime, those new faces, the guys coming in. Do you
Can I
think?
ask a question before we start?
Yes.
Are we talking about just this? Are we? Wait, you're not including Kurt Angle, correct?
No, not Kurt Angle's
Okay.
not included in this. He's gonna
Never
be the
mind,
one-
because I was about to ask, are we counting all of his former reigns too? No. Okay.
No. We're leaving Kurt Angle because for obvious reasons, who Kurt Angle was with Impact at that point.
He's
There
the
was no
greatest world
question.
champion they've ever had.
Yeah. Looking at these four young bloods, the new brood, as it were, Magnus, Eric Young, Lashley, Bobby Roode. Did Lashley have the most impactful title reign of those four new guys?
I believe so.
Alex, do you think so?
I put it at a tie with him and Bobby Roode. Not specifically for this Bobby Roode title reign, because this is like literally the one title reign in the entire existence of Impact that I don't remember as his babyface run. But just the character work that Bobby Roode did from his heel turn, probably all the way up until the end of his NXT run, was top tier character work. It reminded me a lot of like the old Ric Flair promos, a lot of the older like glitz and glamour of like the kind of golden era meets new gen era back in the like 80s, 90s. So I would put them at a tie, maybe with Lashley just beating him by a hair.
Jax, it's your boy. It's the last one we're talking about tonight. 6th reign. Alex just said it. He's the greatest world champion Impact and TNA ever had.
He's the greatest world champion in this world. He is an Olympic gold medalist. Every title he has held has been elevated to a platform higher than anything else.
Higher than him.
I think Kurt Angle,
depending on the years, it might have been higher. It might not have been higher than him.
I would say in a lot of ways, Kurt Angle single-handedly was Impact Wrestling in a lot of ways. I think that's fair to say. If there was one person who made the title, I feel like in a lot of ways, Kurt Angle helped make the Impact title. If you think about all 5 of his reigns up until this one being one of the longest, if not the longest.
This one was short.
We had 145 days.
100. Okay, so
yeah,
short-ish. But still, once again, we bring up the fact of what I started talking about when we first started it. Like 140-day reign is still that's still pretty lengthy.
I'm looking it up. His longest one's only 180, so that's not too far away.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I had it backwards.
I brought something to the Impact table tonight, other than just leading the conversation. Like just giving you guys here. You guys eat on this. That's what I've done all night is just feed you guys information, like give you guys leadway. So I'm glad I finally got something into the conversation that mattered of substance. He won in England. We were talking about All In and All Out and all over the place and everything that's happening. They're in England. Like, what'd you think about Impact being in England? I didn't realize, honestly, looking back on it historically, like that seems like a bigger deal than I think anybody would want to talk about. Because Impact in 2015 did not strike me as being the people that were going to go across the pond for a big show.
Oh, they had a big following.
I was going to say Impact had a
fucking huge over there.
Impact had a bigger cult following in the UK than they did in the United States.
Really?
Yeah.
I guarantee if they would have picked up and moved Impact to the UK and done tapings out of there, it would have sold out every single night. That's how big they were over there.
They'd be the second biggest company in the world right now. I think even surpassing AEW if they had done all of their shows out of England.
You think they could have been that big, huh?
If you go back and watch any of their shows that they did out of England, they were doing them in arenas and they were sold out, and they were actually sold out because sometimes TNA wasn't afraid to kind of show the other side of the camera as well. Like they would pan around the whole thing, sold out every time.
To the like hanging from rafters, man.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
It gave me ECW vibes, honestly.
Really?
Like you would see like the fans hanging off the rafters or like just like with their banners and everything. It was a really cool time.
I need to go back and watch some of that old TNA Impact then. That's for sure. I think this is about it. I feel like this is a good stopping point talking about Kurt Angle. We've kind of hit a point. It was a little bit ambitious for me to think we were going to make it through 12 years of history in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like, that was a little bit ambitious. I'll call a spade a spade.
One more thing on that Kurt Angle run, though, is this is also slowly the beginning of his swan song in the company as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the last title reign that he has. He ends up losing it, and he's there for what? I think maybe not even another full year. So I think it's really cool that for their greatest superstar ever that he was able to get one more reign on the way out.
I think he needed it. Not needed it, but like deserved it, I guess would be a good way to put it.
This is after he sobered up, too. Another redemption story, too.
All right, guys. We did it. We made it. We done all the damage we could do. Alex, I'm very grateful. That was a lot of fun. We made it through Kurt Angle in 2015. So,
yeah, I'd love to come back for the next one.
Yeah, we'll finish part 3. We'll close it out. We have yet to have a history of the strap that took 3 parts. So this is big.
Yeah,
we did the big gold. We did the big gold belt in 2 2-hour spots. So Impact has been. It's been a lot to talk about.
WCW big gold belt or
we did the big gold belt from 1986 to 2001, the WCW run, and then we did from 01 to 2014.
Oh, so you did both. I love that.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. We also did the Intercontinental. We did the IWGP Intercontinental.
Ooh.
We've done the European strap. We've done the hardcore title. And we did the AEW women's title. Which was a fun conversation to have. I know it's a short history, but that was still a lot of fun to talk about, like the Kenny Omega booking days. So we've got some cool history of the straps done.
Yeah, do one on the TNT title, and we'll be here for a 5-part episode already.
Just for the 36 people that have held it. But the nice part about this is this is the part where I shut the hell up. Alex, plug yourself. Tell everybody where to find you and what you've got going on in your life. If there's anything you want to let anybody in on.
Absolutely. Kind of freelancing the whole podcast thing right now. Occasionally I try and join you guys. I occasionally try and join Smack Raw with Arden and Kyle.
Love those guys.
And obviously, once in a blue moon, I'll rear my head on ye old Perched on the Top Rope. Got to go ahead and plug that for Lee. You can find Perched on the Top Rope on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Stitcher, Audible. He's going to kill me because I'm going to forget like 6 things that he always mentions because he tries to remember every single one of them. I'm not going to be able to do that. It's been too long. I'm not as frequent in the podcast world anymore. But you can also find me, Alex Dodd, on Facebook. I'm currently in the process of slowly opening up like a graphic design sticker, like Fiverr store, doing some like animation effects too for any of you out there that are looking to spice up your Twitch overlay at all. So a lot of personal projects going on right now, but I still love to make time for you guys. Not able to as much, but when I can get on, I'd love to.
Jax, plug your stuff for everybody.
You can find me here on Sundays for Botched Chair Shots, Tuesdays for Nerdy News at 420. Then you can find me on Wednesdays and Saturdays over at the Wrestle Talk Wolfpack for Wrestle Talk Wolfpack and Boyfriend Time.
I love both of you so much. Alex, it's always a pleasure when our paths cross.
Absolutely. Always good times, my friend.
Join the Discord. All the links are in the description below. Join the Discord, direct link to me and Jax and the guys from Off the Top, Al. All of us are on there, so you can come chat. Check out the merch at Angry Lemonade, at Botch Spots and Chair Shots. Amazon Prime, give us that Bezos money. He has too much money. Don't give it to Amazon. You get a free one anyways. Give it to us. Give it to Perch. Give it to the Wrestle Talk Wolfpack. Just don't give it back to Amazon. But the lifeblood of Rivet City Radio is that Patreon. If you go and you subscribe, it's less than a cup of coffee per month. And what you get is all of that sweet Rivet City Radio Patreon exclusive content. It's a... wait, that didn't come out right. You can plug my things. Absolutely not.
Probably came out the way you meant, the way how you've been talking.
for Just a Girl 918. You can follow Al on all social medias, Just a Girl 918 on Twitter and Instagram, on the Tiki Takis, as she says. Her Max and Colby support group, the Hill support group with Max and Colby, that is also a Patreon exclusive thing. So head over to Patreon. You'll be able to see all that there. I think that's everything. Shout outs. Follow Creation World Bloodline. Off the top, Fine-Tuned Wrestling, Wrestling with the Truth, Ted the Hillbilly Hill, Smack Draw, our buddies Kyle and RN. Follow all of our friends. I think that's pretty much it, guys. We did it. We made it through everything. We did it. You know? All right. I'm going to talk fast now, though.
I love
Okay.
it.
Now, as we close another episode of Botched and Cheer Shots and take a minute, thank you for listening. Remind you to go wherever you do anything on the internet, like, follow, subscribe, unsubscribe, then subscribe again, leave a comment telling me how great I am or how terrible I sound. Either way, it helps the algorithm. It helps find new listeners. If you're feeling really generous to be one of the VIP people, head over to patreon.com and donate to the Rivet City Radio Podcast Network. You get some fantastic swag. We get some fantastic guests. It's a win-win for the boss bitch living in the ether, for the adorable one, Alex Todd, and for everybody's favorite Ginger Ninja. I am the Will Gray. Thanks for stopping by and listening, my people.